Hi, I'm George from Pavliscak Studios, and I'll be making glass marble today. I'm going to make it out of Moretti glass rods and some other materials that I've prepared in advance. And I'm going to melt the glass on a propane oxygen torch, which is this right here. It's a pretty old one, but it's the one I like. It's medium size surface mix as opposed to magic or the other way, I don't know. Anyway, to get back to our marble, I'm making, here's the back of this marble. I made a bunch of different little turkey face marbles. They're sort of like a flower. They're a little bit 3D. And they've got little feathers poking out. There's this beak and a little tongue and some googly eyes. Let's see, here's another one. I made a bunch of them the other day. Most of them were very ugly. These are the least ugly of them. But I learned a lot, I think. There's, you can see from the side. Probably about 15 to 17 years ago, there was a marble maker in Iowa, and him and myself were, hey Kathy, were going back and forth with doing flowers and faces, and he was more interested in the faces, I was more interested in the flowers, but I've seen a lot of people doing little crazy faces lately, and so I thought, oh, I'm going to brush up on that technique and see if I can learn something new and make some little turkeys, and then maybe make some little Santa Clauses or something, or little elves, or we'll see for Christmas if this ever takes off. Most of these ugly ones will just either get melted flat, or they'll go back in and get melted down. In that, all that recycle work I did in October was studies like this, where things don't really work out but are educational, and practice is always a good thing. So you know, just because you made a marble doesn't mean it has to remain a marble. And do you want your poor performance, if it was just a learning thing, to be around forever? Or do you want to control the things that you release out to the world that represent your work? And I say, I don't know. I change my mind a lot. For the most part, I like to think it's about the learning process, and that is what I enjoy the most. And then, of course, finding new owners for those marbles is always nice. So let me just smooch around my setup here before I get too far along on this marble. And look, there's Barb! And look, your sister is here.
She is? Which one?
Kathy.
Kathy! I'm so happy. I wish I could see you. I want to come.
I got the
Bad.
the other computer, the old Mac, set up for Zoom. I'm going to bring it on the house tomorrow for dinner.
Nico just got home.
Oh, cool.
I'll make him wait to regale us with everything, because he said he's got a bunch of news to share. I don't know what that means.
Excitement. All right.
I don't think so, but...
Yeah. Anyway, oh, these are some of the turkey faces.
Those are great!
Anyway, I'm going to compress the beak
Come
down
on.
towards the eyes a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were really, and anyway, it was bad, but I learned a lot. So anyway, I'm going to acid trip turkey. But anyway, I'm just going to do this marble, and then we're going to call it quits, because everyone's got to move on with their evening. You do, I do, we all do. Let's do it. Yeah, so Zoom is offering unlimited Zoom conferencing for Thanksgiving. So I've got like 4 scheduled for specific family members, and then we're going to probably just have an open one like in the corner of the kitchen during cooking, just for fun. So family members will get an email from me or a text at some point. I'm not sure how long. My sister was sending out some just emails with a link, and that's how I do it for work. So I know a lot of people don't use that, so they'll have to go through some setup. It's not hard, pretty easy, and doing new tech stuff is fun. Keeps you on your toes. All right, back to our marble. I do have a sodium flare filter on my lens, so you can see a little bit better into the flame. Not 100%. The camera actually on my phone auto adjusts a little bit. It's a little bit annoying, so I can't dial it in to where you can see what's happening in the flame without darkening the rest of our field of view. So I'm going to start this little face like I do my floral inside out or implosions. I call them inside out. They're not really implosions. I think the implosion technique, well, they may have started out meaning a similar thing years ago. I think now people, when they talk about implosions, are talking about using a tube to begin the marble rather than a solid rod. I'm not sure about that 100%. I would love to hear from a borosilicate person about that. All right, so I'm getting a gather of clear on this medium-sized rod because this is a medium-sized marble, and I'm seeing a lot of little bubbles in here, so I'm just going to pick those out, as well as any impurities that catch my eye. And so I'm grabbing the glass like off. It's like taffy. And then I'm putting it right in water, and it just crumbles into dust. So now I'm going to hold this gather down and then flatten it. I only have a few seconds to do that, and I'll show you in just a minute. Hey! Hi! How's it going?
I'm good.
I'm just doing my demo. It's going to be a short one today.
All right. I promised I wouldn't tell any stories.
Yes, don't tell any, nothing exciting.
Until you came in.
Yes, I'll only be like a half hour on this marble. I'll be short today.
All right.
All right, I'll see you inside in a few. All right, so I've got this disc on a clear rod gather that I flattened. It was a ball. Now I'm going to draw like I draw a flower, two-dimensionally, so a little cartoony. And I'll start off with the things that I want to be closest to the surface. So I'm going to do the eyeballs. So I've done two little pupils. I'm going to melt those in a little bit farther. So a lot of my little faces, I'm overworking and they're getting flat. So what I want to do this time is I'm trying to benefit from my knowledge of doing these over the past week or so. I was doing like one a day, and then yesterday I did a bunch. Amidst some flowers and some other stuff. I'm making a bunch of these components for marbles and paperweights. They're sections which are going to be put back together into a bigger construction. And I've done that in the past, but you'll see later this year. All right, so I put some white to make the white of the eye over the pupil, and there it just solidified. Now let's do the beak, because that's going to be part of the larger portion of the face, and I've been putting it too far away from the eye, so I'm going to put it real close this time. And I'm going to make the beak like a really big mouth. there you can see. It's like a smiley face, but it's going to become three-dimensional as I blossom it into the surface of the disc. So I'm going to melt that beak perimeter into the surface of the disc. Then, at the points where I want it to stick out the farthest, I'm going to go ahead and gently poke it into the surface of the disc before I start turning it inside out. So the bottom is going to get a little beak, and the top is going to get a little poke, like that. Now, I'm going to just melt it into the surface and start the inside out process, where I hold the disc at a down angle and heat it around the edge so it starts to fall and become a cup shape. And there you can see it's starting to cup. When it cups, I'm going to push it flat again on a marver, which is a flat piece of steel or graphite that I can use to just reflatten that. You can see the design. Now I'm going to add in the stuff around that portion of the face with the medium brown. I'm going to go around the eyes. Let's do that first. Oh, and I'll get in a little tongue, a little tiny red dot. I've gone around the eyes, and this is going to be one layer back, and then the little tongue inside the beak. Now I'm going to continue on with the inside out process a little bit more, and you'll see that whole flat two-dimensional design shrink a little bit as I let the disc fall down and get cup shaped and then push it flat once again. So turning the disc inside out is actually just turning the edges of the disc inside out. The center is anchored by the rod that connects it to the disc. So it's basically a donut shape that's convecting in very slow motion. Each time I cup the disc where it starts to flop and flat and push it flat, I'm shrinking the design a little bit. So now I'm going to backfill the rest of the face with brown, and I want it to be feathery, so I'm going to do it with a bunch of dots. So there is the backfill of dots. It doesn't really look like much. I got to finish the eye, back of the one eye, which I forgot. See it in the flame. Now I'm going to cup and push it again. So now it doesn't look like anything. But if you look around front, you can see the eyes and the beak starting to poke out. Pretty cool. Let's put some wings on the side, basically just some feathers that will be kind of like flower petals. So and let's cup and push those in a few times, and we'll shrink that whole design down. And for those of you coming in now, we're doing a turkey face marble. It's going to be constructed on the same idea as a inside-out flower design, where we've taken a gather of clear, made a disc on the end of the rod, and then we drew the face in two-dimensionally from the highest points back in like layers, like a medical scan. And now we're turning those layers inside out to give it three-dimensionality. And since I've made the face now, I'm adding things on the side that are going to come out, like wings, and then at the very end a tail. So the wings have feathers have shrunk, and can we see there's this goofy little eyes on the top there, and there's this beak down there, big mouth. This would be a great way to do a fish too. Any face that's cartoony. So let's let it cup one more time or two and push it. And then we'll add just a little bit of volume of brown to the back to bring the face forward in the marble. So if the marble is a circle, like this, and then this line represents the plane of the face, we're going to use some mass of brown to push the face forward towards the surface of the marble where you can see it. So a little less magnification from the marble, a little more seeing the design all the way around, front and sides, not just a magnification of the front, the design. Now I have to pay attention a little bit better to what I'm doing here because I'm talking around. The marble's getting crookedy. So the side feathers I put on have shrunk down. There's the little face. I'm just going to add a dot of brown on there to connect all those dots together. Push all the face forward a little bit. You get a real hot gather, and then push it very flat, very fast, so it's thin. Like this, just a line. The line is a dot. The dot is also a line. So a little bit of brown glass on there. Get it hot on the end. Push it flat. See if we can see that a little better. I'll heat it up. There it is. That dot. Connecting all the junk in the back. Let's melt it in. And then we'll press it a little bit more flat, and then we'll cup and push it a few more times to let it start pulling the disc more into a sphere all on its own. And then we'll be most of the way to our marble. And for flowers, a lot of times, I'll put a bigger glass section on the back, which is kind of like the area where the flower is sitting. I mentally refer to it as the tablecloth that the bouquet is on. So it could be any color that you want, or something complementary, or you can put like little tiny hints of flowers in the background so you can see them as you change the angle. In this case, we're not going to put that backdrop on. What we're going to do is add the tail feathers, so that's like a tail feathers showing behind the head. So cupped, pushed it a little bit more, would shrink that in. In the front, you can see there's the little face, eyes, and the beak underneath. Now I want to let it go a little bit more spherical. So I'm sort of cupping and pushing, but as the disc is folding down and getting flattened, I'm not pushing so hard to make it a disc again, but letting it gradually each time become more and more like a sphere. And I'll do that a few more times. And when it becomes mostly spherical, I'm going to put the tail feathers on. It'll be like a fan of little lines, comma-shaped, with a wider end and a narrower end. Alright, so it's become more spherical, and you can see the face. We'll see it better when we start finishing that marble. There's the back, it's drawn down to a point. But now, let's put some of those tail feathers on. And some darker brown. I have a bunch of little threads that I've pulled in advance for doing this decorating. And so I'm going to start in the middle. So I've gone from the top down to the center of the back. And now I'm just going to add some more lines like that, all ending up at that central point. And then the central point, there you can see all the big asterisk. The center is a little messy, where all the lines got pulled together. So take off a little nub, pull it to a point. Let's heat it and get it all to pull into the surface, outside surface of the sphere. We'll get a little gentle rounding when it gets hot enough. And this is going to go back to classic marble shaping design, where I have a series of hemispherical graphite molds. I'm going to go into one that's bigger and just gently shape it. And I didn't quite get all the way there. The rod is cracking because I've been waving it around and letting it get too cold. But the face turned out good. I'm going to shape it one more time, and then I'm going to get a steel handle on the back of this. And then we'll melt off the rod that we originally created it out of, the clear rod. So we've made it spherical. There's the little feathers on the back. Now let's get our steel handle right in the center of those feathers. Now that's attached. I'm going to melt off this big clear rod, freeing it from the marble. It wants to crack off on its own. I don't want it to crack into my turkey face. So I'm heating it right at the juncture where the sphere meets the rod. You can see it's getting wiggly. It's going to melt, go away. See my turkey face in there. It's too much clear on the end of that. Heat that up, pull it off. Pull off the stuff that's not a marble and leave the stuff that is a marble. Some. Still one more. Now it's nice spherical. Bird face. Alright, let's put it to the marble molds, and we'll get this clear face portion nice and spherical. I'm going to go through the larger marble mold and then a smaller one, changing the axis of rotation as I spin it, and we're making it very spherical. Now there's just some rippling on the surface from cooling a little bit too fast, so I'm going to heat it, and then the surface tension is going to make it smooth. Rotating it, keeping it even. Then I'm going to use, for the last tool application on this side of the marble, I'm going to run it through the cherry wood molds. Just a few seconds in each one, so that we're not burning the wood too badly. And there is your little gobbly cartoon turkey face. Now we're going to attach a glass rod to this side, and then we're going to finish this back side. It needs a little bit of sphericalizing, rounding maybe, and then it's surface perfections. So I'm just cleaning up the end of this glass rod, shaping it like a pencil. Then I'm going to get this marble the right temperature, get this just the right temperature, and then touch them together for a cold joint. And it's too cold, it came off. Check out my turkey face. Let's try it again. Get the marble a little hotter. Our last connection point a little bit hotter. And I think I got it. Alright, so we're going to heat off this metal handle that I was using. Get rid of it. I'm going to heat this side of the marble and fix its sphericalness first, and then we'll smooth it, and then it should be done. And this came out really cute. I forgot to put in the little red thing above the beak because I was talking and my brain stopped working. It happens all the time. So I've improved the shape a little bit. One more time. Could be an eagle too, since it doesn't have the little wattles. Yeah, really should have one above the beak and then on the top of the head. Maybe. Really, the one on the top of the head's more chickeny, but I think as far as a cartoon turkey face goes, that might be something else that immediately keys you into saying, oh, that's a turkey. But maybe it would tell you it was a rooster. Which is also okay. Alright, so we're pretty spherical, and I've got most of the surface smooth. We're going to just let the flame and surface tension of the marble and rotation of the marble as smooth as possible. And then as soon as it calms down and it gets a little bit lower temperature, I'm going to put it in the cherry wood moleskin right now. So this is a board made out of cherry, soaked in water, with holes drilled in it, and I'm just using the edge gently, a few seconds in each hole. Now I'm going to use my glass jacks. For the scale, it's just barber scissors to chill the joint between the glass rod and the marble. I'll tap the glass rod off, and then I'm going to come back and get my torch and flame polish that little nub that remains. I'm just rubbing the scissors on there like I'm trying to snip through it, but just going through the motions. And then just tap it lightly and it pops right off. Now I'm going to heat the area where there was an attachment. I heat it pretty strongly and then back off to check my work. And usually after 2 or 3 times of heating it strongly and backing off, I can get that last little point to melt closed without burning or oxidizing the glass. Now it's in a flame-proof tile, like a little space shuttle tile right next to me where I was polishing it, so I can not worry about catching other stuff on fire. But I'm going to heat these tongs up to about 1,000 degrees so they're orange, and as soon as they go to black and cool enough, I can pick up my marble and I'm going to go put it in the annealing oven. I'll be right back. And for my particular glass, that marble will remain at about 960 to 980 degrees for about an hour for a marble of that size. And then I will gradually lower the heat. And tomorrow I'll look at it. And I think it came out good, and I'll take some pictures of it. Probably not tomorrow, but on Friday. And that's going to be it for today. Short one. Turkey face marble, like this. And let's see, what's this one had? You can turn this off. Sort of feathers on the back. You can see I did green as the spacer bit to push the face forward there. And that was because for a practice marble, I wanted the color to show me what was happening to that glass as it pushed forward. Ideally, when the design's done, I want it to blend in, so you can't see that. But for this particular one, I wanted to be able to go back and say, oh, how was that reacting? I want to, fine-tune my technique. And so I was able to do that. And I was playing with the feather technique the first time there to see how that would work. And you can see I pulled too much out of the end and rarefied it, and so the color pulled through. Not a concern if this color matches throughout the marble, but in the green here you see that was an issue. Anyway, there's so much to learn when you're trying new stuff, and I always like to, when I'm doing something new like that, I always think, oh, I'm going to do it like 100 times and see how my knowledge progresses before I would back off and start getting frustrated that I wasn't having progress. I'd want to get in the reps so I'd have the frame of reference to say what's working, what's not, what do I change, what can I improve. And usually if you come at it with that attitude where I'm going to do it 100 times, by the time you do it like 20, you've got a pretty good handle on it. And you don't have to do it 100 times, but you're just giving yourself that patience to fail and possibly learn and succeed also, which makes it cool because then you can really start stacking your improvements on top of each other and making much more interesting stuff. I could just go on and on about that. I won't. But happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you guys next week. Bye bye.